This is the Oakwyn Podcast, featuring Morgan Brown and Michael Yu.
Hello, welcome to the Oakwyn Podcast. I am Morgan Brown.
Michael Yu.
And I'm the Podfather.
And we are so lucky to have this incredible, amazing guest. That is one of our fellow Oakwynite,
Totally.
Paul Fraser.
Paul Fraser. And he brought a special gift with him today. He brought some cinnamon buns that are downstairs.
Basically, you just took the key to my heart, basically. Cinnamon buns. If Mike knows this about me. I am a cinnamon bun
you're a
person.
Cinnabon.
Okay, well, I have something to comment to on that because Solly's is, I think in the city, they're overall the best cinnamon buns, and they're often voted that. Recently moved out to Deep Cove. There is a bakery out there called Covert.
Okay.
Oh, I've heard about Covert.
Okay, there you go.
That's a nice play on words. Covert, Deep Cove.
I like it. Yeah.
And they do, not only do they do the full-size cinnamon buns, but I personally quite like they do little mini ones. So you can just get a little bite.
I'm going here this weekend after I hike that.
It's funny because you know a lot about cinnamon buns, but you're like a fitness guy. What the heck?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
okay, first of all,
Paul, give us the
background.
Okay, so the background. Well, I mean...
The origin story.
So I've been out here since 99, 2000.
Right.
I came out from Edmonton, Alberta. Very much a prairie boy, born in Saskatoon, raised in Edmonton, lived out in Kelowna, and then just eventually landed here in Vancouver. I've got 3 older brothers. They were all out here at the time, so it was a very easy move.
Oh, nice.
But over the years, I've done a lot of work and everything like that, but I got into real estate in about 2009.
Okay.
Worked pre-sale for a couple years, worked under Scott Brown. You guys might know from Fifth Ave.
Yep.
Learned a ton there. And then my career started out with Eric Grant.
Oh, is that right?
That's right.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, with Eric Grant, Century 21.
Managing broker now.
Exactly, yeah. And worked that for a few years and then had a reasonable measure of success, however that's measured. But then to your point, Morgan, is the 5 years of fitness. Look out.
Yes.
I got into a lot of long distance running. And oddly enough, what was most interesting about it is my wife and I we kind of caught ourselves getting into this routine.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people get caught in this where you work all day.
Right.
You come home and you make dinner and you watch TV. And we were living in the Elan at the time. Eric was in the Elan as well. He was in the penthouse. I was on the 21st floor. Anyways, but we were both, my wife and I think you've met Carrie before.
Yes.
Yeah. So
at my Woo event.
Exactly.
Which
Yeah.
is amazing.
Who would be another great guest for you if you want.
Yeah.
She would be happy to come by. But we really discovered that we were getting in this funk of, just coming home and watching TV and eating and going to bed.
Yeah.
And we both really realized, we didn't want that for our lives. And we're living in Vancouver after all. And so at the time, I had a friend of mine that had come out from Edmonton and he was sponsoring a softball league.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'll sign Carrie and I up for softball.
Okay.
Carrie was furious.
Oh, no.
She was so upset.
Really?
Oh, so upset. But I was like, babe, come on. It'll be great. We'll, it's good. We'll meet people.
Together.
It's a divisive thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then, it wasn't as much fun as it wasn't that much fun.
Okay.
But she thought she was going to be getting me back. And she signed me up or us up for boot camp.
Okay.
So do you remember when these boot camps were such a big deal in Vancouver?
Where was your...
Well, it was similar. It was actually
boot camp.
Yeah, this was pre-CrossFit.
Yeah.
So there were these urban boot camps. His name was Fred Massey of Survivor Boot Camp. It was very, very good, very successful. It won.
Where was it? Where did he have
right
it?
under the Canby Street Bridge. Yes. And so we were
I've seen people working out under that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it's the
Canby Bridge.
it has the
where 980 Cooperage is in between.
Exactly. Right by the park, the dog park.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it has the soft rubber ground.
Padding.
And it's also covered so he could run it. It was really smart. He could run it year round. point of it being is we started off doing that, and my wife Carrie was like, "Oh yeah, I'll get him back for softball."
Revenge.
I loved it. It was me.
You got into it.
Oh, I loved it. I was the only guy.
Yeah.
Besides the instructor, it was all women.
Right.
I don't care. I'm here to work out.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And we'd walk with our little 15-pound, or I had maybe like 5-pound dumbbells, and Carrie had like little 2.5-pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
But that was really the start of it. And I found,
What did you like so much about it?
Well, there was two things: is getting out of the house and breaking that routine. I would say that was the overall, and I loved it that it was something my wife
breaker.
Exactly.
Right.
And my wife and I were doing something together as well, like an activity together. And it's it's important. I think you guys
it's a
can
marriage.
both. Yes. But it's just important as a partnership, as a friendship, right? Like,
have some recreation together.
Yeah, just to have that together where it's like, okay, I'm making class tonight or I'm not, or things like that. But we do these warm-ups, and I started coming back and I would do these runs. But anyways, the owner of it at the time, he's like, Paul, you should probably look into running, like running. And I was like, oh, why? And he's like, well, not everybody's running like 3.5-minute kilometers and stuff. And at that point I was running 40-minute 10Ks.
Wow.
I'd run out to, I'd leave from Cambie there, go around Science World, over just before the Granville Bridge, turn around, come back. I think my best time was some 39 minutes or.
What?
Wow.
Oh yeah. And
That's
so then
crazy.
for me,
Fraser the Gazelle.
well, but then it was so strange being like, I was, 6'2".
Did you ever run before?
No, I was, oh my God, you guys. No, I smoked. I used to smoke a pack of cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
It's so amazing both to live that way and live differently afterwards.
Dichotomy.
But anyways, I got into that and then got into long distance running. So I used to do a lot of white knuckle training, which was essentially just go out and run. So I used to run and go do like the bridges. So I would leave the house, I would go around Science World, go across the Cambie Bridge, cross the Granville Bridge, cross the Burrard Bridge, and then I'd come all the way back on the seawall. And I'd be like, oh, that's my run. And then on my long run, I'd run out to the Anchor. So I would leave downtown,
right,
and I'd run out to Jericho Spanish Banks, and I'd run out to the Anchor, touch the Anchor that's down at the base, turn around, run home.
Stop at Solly's.
Did you have like that same endurance when you were a kid? Like, did you ever have, like, was it naturally in you? Like, you had 3 brothers.
I did. You're bang on.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, you're bound to be like athletic.
Well, we were, but none of us really, like, we did a lot of skiing. Right. Growing up, I was always into with animals and that. So I had a horse, and we always worked. Like, ever since I was a kid. I mean, I can remember, this is, hopefully this shows favorably of me, but I can remember in Edmonton, growing up in Edmonton, I would shovel driveways for money.
Yeah.
And so, but.
At what age?
Oh, I was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is in Edmonton, and, everything seems much larger, but I'm confident we used to get more snow back then. Right? very confident.
I'm going to shovel your snow. There's like an inch.
Well, here's the thing is that we had a snowblower. Very few people back in, that's like 90, I don't know, 91, 92, had a snowblower. So what I would do is I would come up to the door with the typical shovel and like the bent up edges, like, how from hitting the curbs or hitting cracks in a driveway. And I'd have that. And I had this skidoo suit with like rips in it and stuff. And I would keep the snowblower over on by where the garage is, so that when I came to the door, they didn't see me or see the snowblower, excuse me.
Oh, that is so funny.
Anyway, so the point of it being is I would be like, I'll shovel your driveway for, $10, $20. And they're like, oh, okay. And then I'd turn around and throw the shovel out onto the driveway, fire up the snowblower, and just blast
Bake it
off.
until you make it, Paul.
Exactly. But it was, I'd come back in 10 minutes and they'd be like, well, what do you said? I was like, yeah, all done. Come on out, take a look. But anyways, it was a small little thing, but it wasn't anything where I never got into any sort of organized sports. I was on a football team, but I remember I would chew tobacco with the defensive coach.
Oh my God.
Like I was not a first stringer. So just to sort of with the endurance thing, no, but I'd always done a lot of work. We always had a trampoline growing up. And as you mentioned with my brothers, like we lived on that trampoline. We used to
Didn't we all though?
I know, it's
like,
so much
I lived
fun.
on my trampoline and we used to like do this, like, what's it called? Because ours was, it was so like looking back. Now they're like super bubble wrapped. You can't even like, they're like not even trampolines.
No, ours had the rest of springs.
Springs.
Yeah.
They would clip on the leg.
Leg breakers. Yeah.
We'd have people come over and it would happen. I'd be like, oh, sorry, man.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
What are you
There's
gonna
no
do?
padding
It's
here,
your
guys.
fault. You're obviously not good at the trampoline.
Yeah, you're not good.
Survival of the fittest on the trampoline.
It really is.
So that, I think that complimented a lot. Like we were always really active kids, but then no, I mean, it's just something that came about, the running.
Yep.
And then that, as I got better at running and then I got a coach, started going with a running club over here.
Okay.
Yeah. At Four Runners, a guy, Jerry Ziak, an amazing individual. If you guys have never met this guy.
Okay.
Inspirational fellow.
Oh.
He runs everywhere. He doesn't have a car.
Is runs.
He runs.
Yeah.
That's how he gets around the city.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. And so I would be running. We would go on running totally. And I would be like gasping for air running. And he'd be telling me, oh yeah, last night we were like, he'd be carrying on a full on conversation with me. And I'd be like, yes, no.
Is there I have to ask you because I'm a terrible runner.
Okay.
Like I'm more of a stationary bike type lady. Peloton.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to be in the zone. Is there a break point where that running gets easier?
You know what? It's an interesting.
Because I'm always like, this is not getting easier. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, I felt like even when I started getting fitter and fitter, and there's a whole bunch of science behind it. If you get into it with like a running coach and that, and aerobic capacity, and they'll measure your CO2. You know, they put you on a breathing machine.
CO2 max.
Exactly.
I don't know why I know this.
But anyways,
I read about fitness and then I don't work out.
but it should get a little easier. Like I used to notice after about like 12 minutes, then I could feel my heart, and even psychologically, I would calm down, and then you could just run. And if it's hard to describe, but a lot of runners say that, where they're like, yeah, once I'm in my stride or in my zone, I'm good.
What an analogy on life.
Yeah, well, it's actually quite poignant, and all of it, like leading up, even as you mentioned about the CrossFit. Anyways, that boot camp that closed down. I continued running.
Okay.
Set a goal. I said, I wanted to be top 20 in my age group at that time, which meant after about I got there after about my fifth half marathon. I finished 19th in Canada in the Canadian Running Series.
Wow.
So I ran a 1:30 and 39 second half marathon.
Gee.
That's when I add the applause thing in the thing.
Which it was unbelievable. It was so hard.
That must have been so hard.
Oh, it was so hard. Yeah. But it was, that's kind of...
Did you take an ice bath after?
I didn't. It was such a, like I call it like white knuckle training. It was just such sheer will and sheer dedication of like, and even those days, by the way, like they're horrible days. Like there's days and you have to, in a lot of ways, if you want to grow or take 10 or 15 seconds off of a kilometer,
right? You
got to run. There's just, and it's similar to
push past
you just have to keep doing the simple or the basic things. He did, yeah. And it's very true of everything. I mean, once I finished that, or once I felt like I achieved that goal, and I wasn't looking to run for 14 hours a week, I got into CrossFit because it was right on our way down to the Canby Bridge. It was CrossFit Westside.
Okay.
Jenica Gordon, fantastic athlete, fantastic coach, great. She is one of the original CrossFit coaches, and was taught by what's called like the OG crew down in California. And she opened up the second gym up here. Phenomenal coach, phenomenal athlete. And then again, similar thing. I just ran with it. I found out that I was really strong.
Amazing.
Like I found out I could do like monster deadlifts. Like within 2 or 3 months, I was doing like 450, 500 pound deadlifts.
Wow.
And same thing. My coach was like, so Paul, maybe you should look at doing this like competitively. Right? And so then hence
the prairie boy strength.
Yeah, well, it really was. I mean, I worked
yeah.
a bunch of very, very hard, dangerous jobs, like working drilling. I used to work with a foundation company. Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. I worked some really hard jobs. And that was certainly, that was just work. I didn't think of it any differently, but
it actually trained you to where
oh
you
yeah.
are.
And it just gave me, but it's also the discipline and the commitment and, these core things that are just so important, right?
Right.
I'm so interested in the parallels between this and real estate because while you're doing this, and I think this is what you're like a fantastic realtor. You really care about your clients.
So
like
much.
I'm just like. Okay, like Paul Fraser, like this is why I really think that we really want you on the podcast is the amount of just
how much
care.
You love your clients.
I really do. I don't.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And so did that set you up? Like, is it good to have both of those kind of balanced lifestyle during that time? Like to have.
Do you know what? I am not somebody to come to for balance.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you right now. I am all or nothing.
Yes.
And that's, a recent post, one of my old coaches and athletes that I used to compete with, she's like, that's you, Paulie, always getting what you want. And I said to her, I was like, yeah. And if I want what you want, guess what? You're going to get it. Right. And it's happened on a lot of situations with clients where they've been like, there's no way. And we've put the deal together or, we've overcome some sort of obstacle and where in a conventional or traditional sense. And even right now in this market, like you've got to be innovative.
Yeah.
You have to do something different.
Can we have an example of that, Paul?
Great example would be right now there's what I call like a Western standoff where there's a lot of people out there that would move.
Right.
But the classic question is, where do I go?
Yeah.
So I have clients right now. I said, okay, well, what if we were to do this and we put a subject to purchase into your listing agreement?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great example, right? Like, okay, so great. I'll move. I'll work a deal with you.
Right.
But I need to find a house.
Yeah.
Right.
First.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or in the meantime, even if we agree. So it's a bird in hand thing. So that's a great example of
smart.
giving. Yeah. Because you want to take advantage of those buyers out there. Yes, it's a seller's market, but you want to, as now you start to see these articles of like buyer fatigue. And now I'm even seeing more realtors, like what to do with your clients when they're frustrated.
Right.
Well, why don't you start broaching the sellers with some other options? Right. Like, let's get this, because so much of this becomes mathematical and statistical. And that's great. And I appreciate that. And I lean into that hard, but these are homes, you guys. These are people's lives. Like not everybody. And I talk about this with people and my clients. I was like, I hate to break it to you, but like, you're not an investor. There is an investment characteristic to this transaction. Yes. And yes, you will participate and enjoy that.
Right.
But no, we're not building a portfolio of investment properties where your 2-bedroom rental is going to offset the vacancies of a studio. And, that's a whole different, as you guys know, that's a whole different thing. But people get really caught up in that. And and I often share, it's like, I don't know anybody that's sleeping on their contract of purchase and sale.
Right.
No.
Right? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
These moments or these negotiations, and I was in one recently of like $800, and I'm like,
oh, it's the same with me.
What is going
$635.
What are you doing? Right?
I lost hardcore,
and it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be that way, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody should be allowed to have that opportunity. But to your question of the innovation, like I think adding a different clause is one thing to do. The classic thing of I had a multiple over in East Vancouver, and it was great because the winning people, this was heavy. They poured it on thick.
Right.
So they wrote out a letter explaining themselves, and they picked up on a few things.
With the kids. I know exactly because I walked through the other person's house this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
And they sold and they bought your place.
Well, that's amazing. Well, they did such a good job because, and this is the thing is it comes to with realtors is yes, the statistics and numbers are important, but the agent was very good at using me, right? He got information out of me. He's like, well, tell me about your seller. And it's very smart. And a lot of agents don't do that stuff. They don't look to build that rapport. And it's in this market, it's so important.
Yeah.
And so he learned that my client was an engineer. Oh, well, my clients are engineers.
Right.
Oh, so he had a whole introductory letter, but the topper to it is that then he had his kids write in crayon on top of what on top of what was written out in like on a computer, the kids in their scribbled handwriting saying, "We will be devastated if we don't get this house."
Wow.
Oh, the
Like-
heartstrings.
Oh, JF.
Jeez.
You just took it to the next level. I just know that, right?
Yeah.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
good. And I appreciate it. I'm like, right on. Good. I have a buyer right now. I was like, you should talk about like your mom being, like whatever.
Right.
I love being on the listing side during this time because the true professionals, like the ones that are they have strategy and the ones that have different innovative ways, are giving you like they're teaching the person on the other side how you could do it differently and really take like what their strategy is and put it into another place when you go to it. And that makes you a stronger agent, right? So it's cool to hear that he did that.
I so enjoyed that whole process. I don't love this market. I will be very candid. I don't. It's
Yes.
I like to think of myself as a buyer agent, and I like to take my
Do
take
all your
time.
due diligence. Yeah.
Exactly. That is something that's huge.
Yeah, I know how. Yeah, that's something that you care
Oh,
about
yeah.
Care
deeply,
big,
right?
big
Deeply,
time.
and I think that is something that needs to be. I don't know how to address it, but I do. Like, I genuinely worry about some of these people that are going in so hot
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and no subjects. And I mean, I made it really easy, like as you mentioned on this past deal in East Van, because we did everything up front.
Mm-hmm.
My client was very specific. We had a whole list of features. We presented a nice document and a feature sheet explaining, like, listen, this is what a favorable offer would look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I had everything ready for everybody that came through. It was a
Right.
quick
Easy.
text right over to them. Here's all the information you require to make your decision. I'm reserving Monday and Tuesday for inspections, because that's something else
That's
that a lot
another
of
question.
people.
Yeah.
I won another deal down in Strathcona, and literally we backed out, right, and then came back to the table afterwards. And I told the agent, I said, "This is not a multiple property." I said, "I'm not, I don't have a crystal ball, but
You're not going to
listen,
get that many
no,
people.
we're the people. Just work with us. Why are you doing this?"
Yeah.
And I find people kind of biting off more than they can chew. Like,
Right.
there's still nothing wrong with just
Taking an
conventional-
offer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just market the property,
Yeah,
let people,
yeah.
and if you come to agreement, and by the way, I don't know why more agents aren't putting shotguns back on people.
Yes.
That's another example of, in deals, there's money, right? There's your terms and conditions,
Right.
and there's dates.
Right.
But everyone negotiates money. And in this market, dates are insanely important.
So
People
important.
need to move, and it doesn't matter on the price, because
Yes.
the deal could fall apart because I haven't sold my home, or
Right.
I haven't done my taxes, or like
Yeah,
people-
whatever it may be.
Lots of stuff.
So, anyways, those are some things that I think kind of get left by the wayside. People focus on the money so much, and it's obviously very important. But
Totally.
So I think you're nailing it so back to the experience that you give your client.
Yeah.
So one, you really make sure that you really educate them. That seems to be like your number one thing.
it's a very collaborative process, right? I think that the public's been trained in a lot of ways that, like, oh, my agent will this, and it's a competitive thing. Vancouver is a market like nowhere else in the world. It's something that isn't, again, another thing that isn't spoken of frequently enough, in my opinion. And as such, everybody's an expert.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they are, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
Or they
I run,
pretend to be.
but I run in, and I run into people all the time where I'm like, yeah, you're bang on, like, yeah. And I find that such an interesting thing as well with a lot of agents, where they might argue with it, like, hey, I don't know. I mean, let me take a look. Each property, each neighborhood is different. I mean, if somebody's off the hip throwing numbers like, oh, this and that, like, come on. It's
Right.
not.
Do you think that comes
realistic.
from your coaching background? Like, do you think that
Yes.
has like some impact, like kind of to translate from, going back in from the CrossFit coaching to like into real estate?
CrossFit was extremely challenging. And I don't know, there's no shortage of humble pie in CrossFit. You get, like, there's lots of tears in CrossFit, you guys. There's,
What?
There is lots of tears in CrossFit. Like people, it's
tears
so
as in
hard.
crying tears.
Yeah, tears, and
tears
it's
as in
like,
tears of
no,
emotional
tears. Yeah, it's emotional tears.
Emotional-
like
Guys-
muscle tears and
Because I guess you're
shoulder
pushing
tears.
yourself. You're pushing yourself to the ultimate max that it's
Right.
bound to break down some specific wall.
You're bang on. And one thing with CrossFit is that there's no, like, I was a very strong human being, but that doesn't mean I'm good at walking on my hands.
Mm-hmm.
It took me,
on your hands.
it took me 4.5 years to learn how to walk on my hands. At 34 years old, I started to learn how to walk on my hands. So
Can you walk? Can you walk like?
No. Like maybe at this stage, I could probably kick up, but maybe I could do the hallway, like maybe 5 feet.
But what? How
crazy.
far could you have gone?
Before, it was like a record for me was about 50 feet.
50 feet on
Yeah.
your hands.
Amazing.
Yeah. And now they make in CrossFit, you have to go up and down obstacles. And
Yeah.
I checked out. I made it to regionals in 2017 with a team. I was a part of CrossFit 604.
Yeah.
By far one of the best gyms in Vancouver.
Right.
And actually, I would relate it, quite frankly, to Oakwyn, right? Like, it was the place to be. And it wasn't just because of the name or anything like that. There was some of the most potent athletes at that gym. And I knew I had to put myself
Around
With that environment.
amongst it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And personally, I had tears some days coming home where like I lost, and these are just workouts between buddies
Yeah.
that, like, you know, if you don't win, it's hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know how else to explain it, but
Oh,
Are you a competitive person, would you say?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not,
Does that come from your
What's your
like
sign?
family, your brothers and stuff
I
like
think
that?
so. I mean, I often describe her, you know, Carrie over the years, I'll put it this way, is when we have dinner, some Friday night, we have these dinners and we always have a takeout dinner. And so if there's dessert or something, Carrie will take like half of the dessert, even though she's not done dinner,
Right.
and she'll set it aside because she knows that if I finish, I will finish that whole
you'll
dessert.
annihilate it.
And she's like, but you know, I'm right here. I was like, I know, but I don't know. I just can't,
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Because
But as-
I'm you.
but as a kid, between
Sean gets no dessert. Sean gets no dessert.
It's almost finished.
but we used to, like, as kids, I would grab a
why he's so
whole
slim.
row of Oreos, right? Like
Yeah.
there'd be,
Oh, the road. The
yeah,
double.
you grab a whole row, like just because
Oh, yeah, you
knew
got
that
big
if
enough
you grabbed-
hands for that, right? You gotta.
But if you came back, like if you went to the couch and had like a couple
Scarcity.
cookies and then went back to the kitchen to get it, there's
Your
no more
brothers,
cookies left.
yeah.
My brothers,
Your
they're gone.
Your brothers would just take it.
They're gone.
Right.
Yeah, we're all over. We're all, you know, big guys, like 6 foot.
Are you guys all really close?
No,
Okay.
we're not.
Yes.
Some of us are.
Connections.
Yeah, and I mean,
New
you know,
different lives, you know.
exactly. Life happens, and
Well, you
know,
make your family, right?
yes,
Yeah,
and it's
like-
very, you know, it's
Yes.
it's also something in getting back to that of
Yeah.
being like so busy, and you go back and forth. And I think COVID or this past year has been a great wake up call of like,
Yeah.
okay, so
What did you
is-
learn during this whole?
Oh God, I've been fascinated with people's behavior. I have to tell you, like, I've been fascinated with people. You know, I've had people comment on like, oh, well, what about this and what about that? You know, whether it's like heart disease or drug addiction. And I agree. I agree with all of, yes, we should be quelling these things with equal vigor that we are COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And my question back to a lot of those folks, and I've had it, you know, on Facebook or even in person with people, is how is you rebelling against the measures they're trying to put in place to control this now? Like, how is you not participating in this helping accomplish that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Being like, if everybody did
Right.
just toe the line here, whatever it is. And that's the other thing is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't think the government knows. And a lot
No.
of they're doing what they can. The
Yeah.
fantastic thing
Yeah,
with science is that there's, you know, trial and error. You make a
Yes.
mistake
Right.
and they adjust. And now, you know, now they, as they say, it's, you know, whether it's the distances or whatever. I just found it fascinating that people would just rebel for the,
Pure sake of it.
yeah.
Right.
And it's like, well, how did
Yeah.
you think if everybody participated in this and everything worked out in a short period of time, imagine if we could then readopt that or deploy it into drug addiction
Right.
Yes.
or into,
If everyone cared about humanity as a whole and just put their whole like crazy kooky ideas aside and just like not to say fold in line, but just kind of made it more peaceful for everyone.
Yeah.
It'd be much easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been just interesting to see that. What else have I learned in this?
How has your business changed?
Yeah,
Paul?
that was my next question.
You know what? That's a great point. And I actually was thinking of this, and you mentioned this in one of your, the other podcasts before, and I find it so interesting.
He listens to your other podcast.
Well, in preparation.
Right.
But I do it naturally. And it's funny because it seems to be a lesson. I call people all the time. All the time. I am on the phone all the time. In the car. If I'm driving by, I call people. I have people that I helped, and it was through Robin. He had a listing on 5th right by the police station. I call those clients every time I cross the bridge.
Isn't that amazing?
Every just because it always reminds me. And same thing, like whenever I drive past a neighborhood, it always triggers a memory of like, okay. And I reach out to them. It's not
Don't you feel like a fear of like rejection or hesitation and no?
I honestly don't even know like rejection of what.
Because like so many people get these like little sparks of like, I should call this person. I should do this thing.
Do it.
Paul's in my head now. But then you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to bother them.
You're not like that.
Yeah, but then
pick up the phone.
Yeah, but that was, I think before I learned how valuable it was and how people actually genuinely want to hear from other people, specifically if they have great intentions like Paul does to educate and cares about people. They're actually happy to pick up the call.
And they actually care about you.
Right.
And I think that's another thing a lot of agents don't realize is that it's a two-way relationship.
Completely.
And like people always ask me, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, you actually I think that's the surprising thing that you can get with those calls.
Well, and it's people, and I've had a couple clients recently as well. They're like, oh, you're so busy. I was like, no.
Never busy.
Other stuff is to the side for this. Like I had a client wondering about refinancing and that's not, mortgages is not my wheelhouse, but I've gone through it. I've done it. So yeah, let's talk about it. Like this is what I learned and it wasn't worth it this time and, variable and fixed and.
That's people. I think they undervalue those service elements. Where even though at the end of the tunnel, there's not going to be an immediate sale, but doing all those items lead to like building a deeper relationship, building more trust, building more of a kind of a great community of people that care about you as well. So that when that time comes, they're really like they want to work with people that they trust and that they know that they can count on them, right?
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing
for sure.
Yeah. And then, you mentioned about the coaching and the point of it is that, coaching helped a bunch because you have to give everybody some attention.
Right.
Right. And especially in CrossFit, it isn't just, and I was very much like I had zero. There's called reps and no reps. I no repped a lot of people.
Right.
Like people were like, oh, I don't want Paul to judge me because I was very
like, hello, I'm right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I saw that. No, you didn't hit the bar or no,
Right.
you didn't, you didn't extend. And it's very true. And you need to do that in real estate as well. You need to know when to push and when not to push, when to help. A big thing I learned from CrossFit is what kind of learner am I? And I think a lot of people are agents, and it isn't exclusive to real estate, but certainly poignant to it is I learned that I'm what I call a monkey see, monkey do. So like
Imitate.
I've watched Morgan, right? I do. And I've watched your social media.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do. I watch all kinds of
compliment.
things like that. And then also when I'm out looking at places, I watch everything. I watch the other agents. What are they doing? Who are they talking to?
This is getting creepy.
This is
I'm kidding.
I do though, right?
You know what? This is a
joking.
very big takeaway, I think, for anybody that's listening. It's all about like replicating what works and then making it your own.
I think and
Right?
definitely. And Paul, knowing yourself, like learning about yourself and learning how that's the best way in which you're able to absorb information and by observing in that sense. Wow, that's like that's very powerful.
And it came from CrossFit because some people you can tell them from across the room, like, hey, hands up or chest out, right? And they'll respond. But some people don't understand that cue, right? And that's like the verbal cue. So the next step in the coaching would be like a tactile cue. So like a touch, right? So like, you know, it would be maybe between the shoulder blades. Obviously, like you have to know your athlete or know your client. And then the next thing would be to replicate it, to show them, right? So you speak, show, and then touch would be sort of the last thing. Like, no, I want you to straighten your elbow like this,
wow.
You know, learning that. And there's some people that are great. Like you can coach them from across the room. Like, and it's similar to real estate where, you know, some agents, they can do coaching and it works. Some people, and I'm one of them, I just have to go through the fire. I have to make the mistakes.
So being licensed since 2009, right?
Correct. Yes.
It's been a long road. What have you learned so far? I think that's one of the big questions for most agents out there.
Do you know, I genuinely, like, I love my
years,
job.
11 years.
I love it. And I mean, and it's similar to a lot of agents that are listening to this. And I feel like I'm amongst titans here. I mean, you've had Cam Walker in here and Steve Soretsky. I am nowhere near these guys. These guys I look up to, they're pillars of our industry. Soretsky's a Canadian celebrity, right? He's
a legend.
Yeah. And he's so nice. He's such a great guy.
He's actually a
marginal.
He's not that.
We literally
nice.
were just talking about how great he is right before you came in.
Yeah, he's all right. No, I'm just joking. I really like Steve. Yeah.
So what's the big takeaway?
Big takeaway. I'm sorry. You know, that I love my job. I do. I mean, that's what I was going to say is that over those 5 years when I was doing CrossFit, real estate was a part-time thing.
Right.
And that, I mean, you guys will both attest to, especially now here in Vancouver, back then you can't do this part-time.
No.
Yeah.
You cannot. And too often in people, I'm like, yeah, sure, go get your license. Yeah. Easiest job to get, hardest job to keep.
Right. Oh, I like that analogy actually.
Yeah. Easiest job to get.
Yeah.
Gate of entry for sure. Keep it, be good, be consistent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. You're going to get your doctorate in that. Like,
and I think the way that what I admire so much about you, Paul, is you've really built not just this as a career, but as a business.
Yeah.
And one of the big things is that you don't mind spending money on your brand. You've really opened up your authentic self to everyone, your dog, your branding.
I know, Charlie, my boy. I've got two bulldogs. Charlie is my mentor. And you see, even if you send me a text, my auto reply is when I'm driving in that is be the person your dog thinks you are. I'll call you back when I get to my destination.
Oh, okay. That's so funny.
Everything is so run through and it reminds me of this.
That's so, I love that. It's just like so authentic. It's just so like, it's so personal. Like it's like really, really good. Like you really get to know you and there's no kind of filter there, which can
be, sometimes not the best for me. I will admit, sometimes I get into it. Right. And in that desire for administrative specific or accuracy, which not everybody adopts, by the way.
No.
That can be very frustrating.
Yes.
And so I've had to learn that. But
what was the steps? And I think this is a great kind of thing to tie up this conversation. What was the steps for you to kind of get over that hump, for you to start really thinking of it as a business after 11 years now, right?
Well, it was twofold.
Okay.
I was let go from coaching back in 2017. We had a separation from the gym I was working at. And so I'd worked with a currency exchange company throughout that time as well, as if circling back to always working. Like I've always had stuff on the go. Yeah. Right. And it's similar to some of the other guests, but point of it being is once I realized that I didn't have that extra revenue from coaching, and it actually was also a lifestyle. I wasn't training. On my 40th birthday, we went to Africa, my wife and I, and we brought my mom and my brother came. Yes. It was very, very fun, very sweet. But I had a big, I guess, epiphany of, like how we live in this world and especially Vancouver. I mean, I don't know that people genuinely understand like how fortunate we are.
Right.
And it's not just the disparity in poverty or anything like that. No. I'm just talking about like in general, how we live in this umbrella, this bubble that we all walk around in.
Right.
And so when we came back, my wife and I, and she was at Colliers at the time, big corporate job. And so we began to evaluate, like, is this what we want?
Right.
And when we went to Africa and came back, we decided, we're like, yep, this is what we want. And, get out of my way. We are. And that was the big thing for me is 2017. I just, everything
dove in
big time, deep.
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. And so much so that even my fitness at this past year has all gone by the wayside, and I'm nowhere near where I used to be. But as I admit, like, that is for me, the challenge is finding that balance. I'm 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. real estate.
Let's go.
Nonstop. Yeah.
Right.
And I could probably refine that down, but I'm not perfect.
I mean, the thing is that you love what you do, and it's hard. I say this to everyone. People are always like, isn't going to be hard for you? And I'm like, I don't even consider this a job. I've literally, when you really are so passionate about something, it doesn't feel like you're working.
I couldn't agree more. I sat down with a client. We just recently got one, but when I first met him, before we were going to look, I have a little summary, right? So depending on the properties that we're looking at, I just do a quick one, a broad summary. Like, hey, this is where properties are selling at in this area.
You're doing this before
we even, like, usually in our first meeting, we secure.
He's so prepared. I
got to beat you guys, right?
I
got to do
there's
this.
more than enough for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing, by the way, Michael. I want to share that is that I remember that from Oakwyn, and that has resonated with me immensely. And it really helps a lot with people because we all feel this pressure in real estate to do better and be.
You're seeing other people doing X amount so much. You're right. There's just more. There's a lot of pie.
There is, and you said that. I remember that at the headquarters that was such an important thing for me. I was like, yeah, that's true. And so it kind of circles back into the CrossFit thing of like just stay in your lane. Like I always knew that, hey, I would win the strength events.
Right.
I needed to work hard in the gymnastics events, right? I needed to be able to do 50 pull-ups where like I'd competing against 24-year-old kids that are like at home with mom and dad eating enormous amounts of food. I'm running, we still have a marriage and a life and, we're refinancing the mortgage. Anyways, so many more things, stressors at play. But, getting back into it, when I dove into it, I was like, okay, this
really
is it.
A lot of commitment.
It's huge.
Yeah. That's just what it's like ringing through that, my ears is just that big commitment to your business, your clients. And
I get to do this.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't.
Gratitude.
Yeah. I get to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at this. Yeah. I've worked with a drilling company doing pilings and almost lost my hand and Oh yeah, like chains wrapped around my hand is like.
How would you walk around if you don't have a hand to walk on?
That would have made CrossFit very difficult. But yeah, there's a lot harder jobs out there, folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're struggling or anything like that, then maybe you should pack it in. By the way,
yeah, Paul, you've been growing your business and, really we're so proud of the trajectory that you've taken your business in the last few years. So obviously there was a bit of a turning point there, but if you were to give advice to an agent that wants to kind of emulate that kind of trajectory, what would that be? I'll finish there.
Gosh, you know what? I don't know, Michael. I would, I would figure out how you're good. Leverage your strengths. It's a Gary V thing of, and it actually is a CrossFit thing too, where they say, you should be a balanced athlete. And I would often tell people, get good at that, but get really good at that.
Right.
So I was no doubt whenever I would go in, I was one of the strongest. I knew that I would win or get darn close to the top of the finishing event of a strength event.
Right.
So I needed to work on the other stuff. And I think the same would be true in real estate.
Yeah.
This pandemic has really affected me because I do very well at open houses.
Right.
I do very well.
I would sell my house with you in that fast.
And it was when I was working with Bernadette and she was like, oh, okay, yeah, you'll be fine. I build rapport, relationship and next step very effectively. And it's been really hard with COVID because I describe myself as a belly to belly salesman.
Right.
And you can't do that anymore.
No.
So my phone calls have gone up. But
you haven't made that an excuse. Your business is still doing really well.
It is, but it's also, I've been working with people for a long time,
right.
and now it's starting. I look at I look at myself as a lot of a buying agent, and there's a lot of pressure in real estate to be a listing. Oh, listings are where you live, and this. Mm-hmm. Listen, just do you and do it very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it.
That's I love that. And I think on that note, thank you, Paul, for being part of the podcast today. It was so enlightening, and we got so much out of it. And I know a lot of our listeners will get a ton out of that. Thank you, Paul.
Hope so.
And if you've enjoyed this podcast, looking right into the camera.
Wait a second here, Paul. If someone would like to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Well, you could obviously reach out to me at Paul Fraser Real Estate, and you could call 778-317-3860.
Perfect.
And on that note, guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, thanks so much for listening, and please rate us 5 out of 5 on whichever podcast platform you're listening to it on. And also, if you're an agent and you're thinking about joining Oakwyn, please
visit oakwyn.com/join.
Right. Do it. Thanks, Paul. And type in the message box pod 2021 and you'll get a free piece of mystery swag.
Okay, thanks so much,
Paul.
guys.